Hello friends, welcome back. I am Jason and I was recently asked in the comments section what 10 items would I bring on History Channels alone. So here we go. Before we get started guys, please hit that thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, do so. I'd be really grateful for it. We also have Patreon memberships. The link is in the comment section and in the description of this video. Now I've done a couple of TV shows and one of them was on the History Channel, so I think I've got a fairly good amount of insight into what goes into these types of challenges, these survival challenges. I've done one called Alone the Beast, where I was in the swamps of southern Louisiana for 25 days. And basically we had no equipment whatsoever, so it was pretty easy to pack for this trip. It was just your clothing, and that's pretty much it. Nothing else. No water bottles, no tarps or tents or knives, nothing at all. And we were delivered a big dead alligator and said, here you go, deal with it. So for the next 25 days, we had to live off the land and figure out how to preserve our alligator meat, butcher our alligator to start with, without any modern tools at all. And that was pretty challenging because there was, you know, a lot of people think, oh, you just nap a rock and you can make a knife. There are no rocks in southern Louisiana. Zero, not one. No rocks at all unless you dig, I don't know, a couple 100 feet down or something like that. So it was pretty challenging. We had to actually use a reed knife. We used basically like river cane or tiny little bamboo. We'd split that up into small little sections, and it leaves a really small silica sharp edge, and you can cut through hides and butcher meat with that. So that was a pretty interesting experience. Miserable experience. 25 days of that. It was really rough. I tell you, I learned a ton. I'm really grateful for the experience, but would I do it again? I don't know. So on my list of things that I would bring if I was going to do the show alone, and we'll talk about if I would do the show alone here in the future, if I was offered the opportunity, I don't know. No in particular order. I'd bring a sleeping bag because, you know, usually they put you in a colder climate where the temperatures are going to drop down below freezing typically. That's what their goal is. They put you in like right before wintertime or something like that because they want eventually the weather and the misery to become so bad that people eventually give up. So I would bring a sleeping bag because I want to be able to sleep at night without having to curl up next to a fire and be miserable and collect a ton of firewood each night, which is exhausting. And when you're low on calories, collecting firewood is a huge endeavor, and the firewood gets further and further and further away from you. It just leaves you because you're picking up the sticks and stuff around your camp, and then eventually you're getting wider and wider, and then you're having to go really far and use the crappier firewood, the stuff that's just whatever you can find and scavenge up, if you're needing a fire to stay warm. Like we did in Louisiana in the swamp, believe it or not. It got really cold. It was in the 40s. So that's a challenge. I wouldn't want to have to do that. I wouldn't want to need a fire for warmth. I would want to have a sleeping bag for sure. So that's my first item. I would definitely bring a sleeping bag. Next on my list is a Bivy Bag. I would want to be able to protect that sleeping bag at all costs. I'd want that outer layer, that outer shell to protect my down-filled, fragile sleeping bag from getting holes in it, from getting wet, because once they get wet, it's really hard to dry them out. And that could be the difference between me making it another day or not. If something happened to my shelter, storm came through, wind blew in, whatever, and my sleeping bag got wet and suddenly I'm freezing. So I wouldn't want that. If I had a sleeping bag inside of a Bivy Bag, life would be good. So there's 2 items right there. My third item would still be shelter. I'm still talking about shelter here, and that would be a big 12 by 12 tarp. That's one of the things that's offered. Yes, yeah, I can make shelters. I can make lean-tos and really elaborate, and given enough time, I could make a really nice shelter, and it'd be pretty dang watertight, given enough time. But it will never be as good as a waterproof 12 by 12 tarp that I could bring. It'd never be as light and as easy to set up. And when you first arrive at these destinations, you got nothing. And I'd want to be able to set up a quick tarp shelter and then get to work on whatever other projects I have planned. And, it's really hard to beat a tarp, and I feel like it'd be a big mistake to not bring something like that at least initially, Before we continue on, I want to make sure I remember the comment was left by Fluff and Stuff. Fluff and Stuff and then some numbers, 7, something like that. I forget what it is, but I really do appreciate you leaving this comment and giving me the idea to do this video. Anybody else in the comment section, if you have video ideas, things that you want to see, things that you want me to discuss, activities you want me to engage in, just leave those in the comment section and I might just choose it and then give you a shout out in the video. So, Senor Fluff and Stuff, that sounds like a good name for a cat. If I was gonna get a new cat, I would name it Senor Fluff and Stuff. But thank you for the comment. Next on my list, I think number 4 would be a Ferro Rod with a striker. Just a reliable way to start fire. There's been some people in the past on the Alone channel or Alone show that have chosen to not bring a fire starter, and they planned on just doing bow drills and friction fires because they're really, really skilled at it. But depending on where you are, that can be really, really tough. I mean, there's some places in the world that don't have quality materials, quality woods that enable you to do a good friction fire reliably. And weather dependent and all of that, it's not a guarantee. And I wouldn't want to, all this time and energy and that you've invested into going and doing this challenge, I wouldn't want it to be ruined by not being able to start a fire. That would suck. So I would definitely bring a Ferro Rod that I could reliably start fire no matter what. And I would definitely have that thing like lashed to my belt. When I did a show in Maine, in northern Maine, and I was allowed to bring a fire starter on that one. It was me and my dog Maggie. We survived for 10 days in northern Maine, but we had some gear similar to the Alone type challenge, and that show was called Called to the Wild on the National Geographic channel. It's also on, you could also watch that one on Disney Plus. But when I had my Ferro Rod, I was able to bring my Ferro Rod, I had it lashed to my belt. I had a piece of paracord, a pretty good length of paracord where I could keep it attached to my belt. I could use it while it's still attached to my belt, put it back in my pocket, and there's absolutely no way, unless I take off my belt, of course, that I would lose that Ferro Rod because it's such a valuable piece of kit. I wanted to make sure I had it really attached to me all the time. Number 5 on my list would be a cutting tool of some sort. And I would probably bring a machete, not too unlike this one right here, something similar to this. I would probably bring my, my onthree custom designed machete by Bear Forest Knives. That's probably my preference. But I would bring a machete, a large chopping cutting tool like this, because I could cut fish up, I could butcher fish, I could butcher large animals with a blade like this. They're easy to sharpen steels with rock out of the creek or wherever I end up being. They're very versatile tools. I can make other tools. I can make big mallets and stuff to drive stakes. I can do a lot of stuff with a tool like this, and I'm a machete guy. And regardless of where I was put in the world, a machete would be a very, very valuable tool. For digging holes, chopping through roots and stuff like that, just a rugged, abusing tool. A machete is really, really hard to beat. This is a heavily modified Imakasa machete right here. Inexpensive, sorry about the chickens. Inexpensive, but reliable. It's not gonna fail you, and you could just get, even if you were to break the handle off, the thing would still be really, really useful. Number 6, very important, would be a 2-quart pot. That's the biggest pot that they allow you to bring. I would 100% bring a metal container that I could boil my water in, cook my food in. It would be similar, actually, to this right here. This is a percolator, but it would work fine, and it'd be about this size. That's probably about a 2-quart pot. And I would use this. Basically, what I do in survival scenarios, survival situations where I'm forced to live off the land and I don't have food with me, is I spend all day looking for food. I gather all the wild edibles. I catch all the fish. I kill the squirrel. I do all the things that I can do all day long, and I just add it to the pot and add it to the pot. And I keep adding to the pot. And at the end of the day, I put this on my fire, I boil it up, and I cook whatever's in there. And then I drink all of it. I drink the whole lot of it right there. And then that way you're getting all of the oils and stuff from the fish. You're getting everything, all the nutrients that you can get. And then I consume whatever's in there, fish bones and all of it. And then after I have consumed all of this, I basically would fill this up with water again, put it back on the fire, boil it up, and then I have some clean water ready to go for the next day, essentially. And I can have, depending on my activity levels and the temperatures and all that kind of stuff, I can have, a half gallon of water to drink per day, or up to a full gallon, or maybe more if I needed it, but most likely probably not, because I'm not going to be like running up mountains and stuff like that when you're super low on calories. It's just not going to be a thing. Your activity levels are going to be pretty decreased, and you're not going to require as much water. Yes, you can make burn bowls and, you know, give it enough time. You can do you can make all kinds of things, but it'll never be as good as a metal pot that you can just stick into the fire. It'll never be as reliable and easy to use as this, and you don't want to be messing around with hot rock boiling and all that kind of crap when you're low on calories. You just want a metal pot, and the biggest one that you could bring would be ideal. Number 7 is a really important one, but an often overlooked one, and that is a sewing kit. I would bring a sewing kit because inevitably you're going to get tears in your clothes. Now, I'm not sure about the Alone rules on how many extra pairs of clothes that you could bring. Can you bring 2 pairs of pants, 3 pairs? I don't know. I don't know what the rules are. If you know the rules on that, leave that in the comments section. But I would want to make sure that I could repair my clothing or repair my tarp or my gear or whatever. I want to make sure that I can do that. So a needle and thread, holy crap. I mean, that is a valuable piece of kit right there that I would not want to be without if I was in the woods for an extended period of time, because you're gonna tear your clothes. Like, you're gonna get holes and tears and rips and stuff like that. When I was on Alone the Beast in Louisiana, it was like day 2. I was breaking a stick. I was breaking a little tiny sapling firewood, and the end of it caught my pants and ripped my pants from here to here. Just ripped them wide open. And luckily we had a spare pair of pants. We were allowed to bring 1 extra pair of pants. But without that, oh man, that would have been bad. Mainly, not because of the cold or exposure or anything like that, but because of mosquitoes. I would have had a bare thigh right there that was completely exposed to the mosquitoes chewing me alive. And that would have been horrible. That would have been so bad. So if I had a sewing kit, I would have been able to stitch that up and repair my clothing. And I think that's super important. Often forgot about, often neglected in survival kits and stuff like that. But a sewing kit, I would definitely want that. The last 3 items would be food. Would be food related. That's it. Because the name of the game is to survive as long as possible, to stay out there as long as you can. And if you're not collecting the food, if you're not gathering the food, you're not going to make it that long. Yes, I mean, you can go a while, a month without eating, potentially, but you will be a sad, horrible, miserable wretch if you go a month without eating food. You will be completely useless. I mean, you're just going to be laying there pretty much in your sleeping bag and just passing the time, slowly going mad. And who wants to do that? So finding food, being able to collect food, bringing food perhaps, would be a really smart choice in my opinion. Watched all the early seasons of that show. I haven't watched the last several seasons of Alone, but to my knowledge, everyone that has been able to kill a large animal like a moose or a muskox or whatever was killed up in the far north regions, they won the show. Why? Because they're eating steak. They're eating pounds of meat each day as opposed to nothing that everybody else is just scavenging for a little squirrel or little leafy green things that they can collect or a few little fish or something. If you're eating steak every day, you're going to outlast everybody else. It's just, your belly's going to be full. Yes, I know you're still going to be neglected of some nutrients and stuff like that. I get it, even if you eat the organs and all that stuff. But listen, if you can kill a large animal, you're going to outlast everybody else. So my 8th item would be a bow and arrow, right? You're allowed 9 arrows and a recurve or longbow traditional archery, which I've quite a bit of experience at. I've shot traditional archery a lot. I used to compete in traditional archery. I'm a pretty good shot. I haven't practiced much in the past few years, but I'm sure, just like riding a bike, I could get it back. So I would bring a bow and arrow because I could kill a large game animal. I could kill a deer or whatever is available in my area. I could potentially get that thing, and that would be a game changer if I could do that if I could get 1 kill. Yes, it's not guaranteed. It's difficult to kill an animal, a large animal, with primitive archery, but given enough time and patience, I could make it happen, I hope. That would be my goal. So I would definitely bring a bow and arrow, and I could also, use it to get small game and stuff like that as well in the meantime while foraging and hunt and gathering. I could be opportunistically hunting, be looking for the squirrel or the rabbit or whatever while I'm gathering the berries or whatever. Fishing, my 9th item would be fishing equipment. You're allowed to bring 300 yards of up to 20-pound test. You can bring smaller, but up to 20-pound test fishing line. And you get 35 barbless hooks. The most recent list that I saw, they have to be barbless hooks. So 35. If they were barbed hooks, on my list, I would have brought a multi-tool, a pair of pliers, because, I think it was Callie that got a hook stuck in her hand and she wasn't able to get that thing out because I don't think she had a multi-tool. For other reasons, obviously. She thought she was really injured. She was. It was in there good. That sucked. So if I was to get a hook in my hand, having a pair of pliers would be, if I'm going fishing, I have a pair of pliers. I have a multi-tool with me. I have the scissors and stuff to cut the line. If you're going to be fishing with a barbed hook, being able to get the hooks out of the mouth of the fish easily with a pair of pliers is super important. But barbless hooks, not going to be as difficult to get the hooks out. So I wouldn't necessarily bring a multi-tool, but having the 300 yards of fishing line and the 35 hooks, I could probably, if you're near any source of water that has fish in it, you could probably make fish happen with that very simple amount of fishing tackle right there. You could do cane poles, you could do hand lines, you could do a lot of stuff, and just having that right there would be a game changer. And if you could catch some larger fish, yeah, you'd be doing okay. That's a reliable, renewable source of food right there, source of calories, and that's 100% what I would bring. And with that fishing line, one of the things that you could bring is a gill net, which is really effective, and they're illegal in a lot of places because of how effective that they are. You could span them across a small stream like the one that's running through my property, and you can clean out that section of fish and crawdads and all that, whatever else gets hung up in there, and small mammals, ducks and stuff that are not mammals, but small animals that swim by and get hung up. You could catch a lot of stuff in gill nets. So for that reason, I'd bring one of those, but I could make a gill net, I don't subtract one of my other items. I wouldn't bring a gill net. I could make a gill net out of that 300 yards of fishing line. It takes a lot of line to make a gill net. It takes a lot. You'd be surprised at how much cordage goes into making a decent sized net. But 300 yards, I think I'd have plenty to fish with, and then I'd have enough left over to make myself a gill net. And that would be a really effective means of getting food. And then I could also use that fishing line to tie things up, to lash stuff up, use it as cordage, like I would paracord or something like that. Not as strong, obviously, but it would still get the job done. The last thing, the 10th item on my list would be salt. You're allowed to bring 3 pounds of salt. And that, in my experience, salt is something that my body craved desperately. When I did the 25 days in Louisiana, we had no salt. There was nothing. You can't find it. You can't source it. There's no salt licks. There's no salty deposits. There's no plant that you could eat that's going to replenish the salts that you're losing. And my body just craved it. I just would dream about a saltine cracker. And that was one of the first things that I got to eat, actually, when I got out of there, was a saltine cracker. And it was just the most tasty, but overwhelming sensation to chew on a salty cracker. It was just... Man, I would bring that. I would bring salt for that reason right there. I'd bring salt because my body needs it. You need salt. Yes, you can preserve your foods and stuff like that. If you were able to get some meat, you could salt your meat. But just adding a little bit on top of the fish that you caught or something like that would do, it's an amazing thing. Your body needs it, and I would definitely bring salt if that was an option. So that's my 10th item right there. That's my 10 items, guys. Now, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this in the comment section. Leave me your 10 items. Leave it in the comment section. Tell me what you would bring. Tell me what I'm stupid for choosing. Let me know. Give me your honest opinion. Let me know where I'm wrong. One of the options that you could bring was also a flashlight, but from personal experience, I remember we were given cameras, and to self-document ourselves, and just like on the Alone show, and those cameras have lights on them. So I don't know if you're technically supposed to use them for that, but we sure did. Even the night vision feature, so it was pretty handy. So you don't necessarily need to bring a flashlight because you're going to have that's going to be supplied to you with fresh batteries all the time. So because they want to make sure that you can document what's going on. But I don't know how it differs on the Alone show. Maybe they take out the flashlight thing or something like that, so you can't use it for that. Who knows? If I was given the opportunity to go on the Alone show, would I do it? If you said, Jason, right now, here's your chance, pack up your 10 items that you just listed, and you're doing it. You're going to go do the Alone show. You could maybe win $1 million. I don't know if I'd do it. It's a miserable experience. I mean, yes, it is an eye-opening, it is a life-changing experience to do things like this. It would forever change my life for sure, and maybe I wouldn't regret it afterwards, after it's all over. Kind of like type 2 fun. It's okay. It's terrible while you're there, but afterwards it's all right. It's fun after the fact. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if I would do it. It is a terrible thing. It does a mess to your body. It wrecks your body. You lose a bunch of weight. Your digestive system gets all out of whack. Even for, you know, I was messed up for, I don't know, probably a good couple weeks after the event. And then just a time away from your family. You can't get that back. You can't get your time back with your kids, you know. And if I was gone a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, if I was doing really, really well, that's a long time. That's a long time away from your family. Then you can't get that back. So I don't know if I would do it. I don't know. I would definitely consider it. If I was given the opportunity right now and said, "Hey, pack it up and go," I would consider it, but I'm leaning towards no at the moment because of how difficult and what I would just miss out on. Like that's the thing. I'd miss out on a lot of life to go be by myself in the woods somewhere. Anyway, guys, that is my list of 10 items that I would bring on the Alone Show. Love to hear what you guys think about this. If you haven't subscribed already, if you haven't already hit the thumbs up, please do so. I'd be really grateful for it. Share this video. The shares are really helpful as well for promoting the videos just in general. Check out my Patreon subscription in the comment section and in the description on this video. There's gonna be some behind the scenes content, some live chat Q&A stuff that you could only access there, and I'd be really grateful for that as well. Until next time, friends, what's the worst that could happen? Let's just go on 3.